Look, I can't but think that now might be a good time for a little fire and ice. Please
Do not know. There's never a good time for fire and ice.
What happens when you mix fire and ice?
Warm water, baby.
It's bubbling, baby. Warm water. Warm water.
Hey, hello. I'm sorry. I like this angle for me.
Okay,
that angle for you.
So Brandon, for the people that are tuned in right now on the various streams, was talking directly to the Facebook or the Instagram, the Instagram audio audience here. We are live on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, various other places. We got some announcements that we're going to bring out to y'all a little bit later on as well. But we are Fire and Ice. We're coming to you live from over here at Union Draft House, 730 Sunland Park Drive, on the corner of Sunland Park and whatever the street is over here. I was going to say in the parking lots of the shops at Solana.
It's like Mesa Hills.
Mesa Hills. Yeah, close to it, whatever it is. But in the parking lot of the shops at Solana, it is cider day. So that means we have the $4 ciders, the $4 seltzers in the can, and of course, Brandon, our favorite thing in the world, bottomless wings. $15.99 get you your first set, bottomless after that. I want to give a shout out to my guy, Michael Puga, who was saying, "What's up, sexy?" Not much, baby. What's up with you?
Hey, he's talking to me, not you. But anyways,
wow.
How many wings you put away last week? About 100 maybe?
It was about 450. I ate my literal weight in wings.
I left,
that
and
day.
you kept eating when I left.
Yes, 100%. We've got our guy, David Halpern, with us as well, making sure we look good, making sure we sound good, all those good things going along with us. And, of course, a little bit later on today, Brandon, who's our guest going to be?
We have the former director of football operations for UTEP football for the last 27 years, Coach Nathan Poss, joining us live here at Union Draft House. And I'll tell you what, Coach Poss has made so many memories here in the Sun City over the last 30 plus years, as a coach, as of course, being with the UTEP program for so many years through so many coaches in general, athletic directors, and the difference that he's made in people's lives over the last 27 plus years has just been unbelievable. A great article was written about him in the El Paso Times recently by the great Brett Bloomquist about the legacy that he has made with UTEP football and really, El Paso athletics in general. And of course, you have quotes from, Aaron Jones and Jordan Palmer and former UTEP coaches. And really, it's a great read about Coach Poss that was published this past week in the El Paso Times. I've known the man almost 30 years. He's been a mentor and really someone special in my life for years. And that's why I wanted to make sure we had him on this week, because he is just well deserving of all the acclimates he's received. And he's really had an effect on countless individuals, and I'm happy to have him on soon here.
I can't wait to talk to him. I've got to figure out what makes somebody that much of a masochist that they stick with UTEP football for 27 years.
Yeah.
Witnessing much more lows than highs.
Yeah.
But, of course, we're going to get that question answered a little bit later on today. Brandon, let's go ahead and get started with a recap of some of the stuff that happened this week. I don't know if you've been watching anything in the NBA, but I love what's going on in the NBA. But, of course, we got to get started, Brandon, with what matters the most, and that's the NFL. Last week, Brandon, I think you and I basically went toe-to-toe with each other, and then one game separated us from having the week that we thought we were going to have. We both thought that the Ravens were going to beat the Texans. That came through fruition. We both thought that Green Bay was going to keep it close with San Francisco, but ultimately lose. That's what happened. We both went with the Detroit Lions defeating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's what happened. The one split that we had, Brandon, you chose the Buffalo Bills over the Kansas City Chiefs, and I told you I cannot pick against Patrick Mahomes. That was a game that to me is going to go down as one of those instant classic type games.
Oh yeah, it was a great game.
I love everything that I saw out of Kansas City, the way that they were able to battle, the way that they were able to kind of hold their own against a very potent. And let's face it, Josh Allen is all they have on offense in Buffalo.
Yeah.
But a very potent, very, very formidable opponent in the Buffalo Bills. What was your takeaway from that game?
Well, a spade is a spade here. And yes, you're right. The Buffalo Bills have indeed become the Cowboys of the AFC. But the main difference is that, even though it's been 30 years, Dallas has several Super Bowls to show for it, and Buffalo has jack squat. So my take was I was extremely disappointed. They fooled me again, as they always do every January. They fooled their fans in Western New York. Kickers suck, especially their kicker. He has one job, and he goofed at the end. I mean, what are you going to do? The game is in, the ball is in your court, but not just him. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond Diggs dropping that sure potential touchdown late in the game, them not being able to get that crucial first down and run the clock up. Because let me tell you something. The difference between a good team and a great team is a great team wins that game. That great team doesn't give Mahomes any time because Mahomes is going to beat you. They tie that game, Mahomes still comes out and beats you. That's my thing, is that they were done and done regardless of whether the kicker missed it or not. It just would have been more painful and slow. But long story short here, very disappointed. I mean, this is a team that was red hot, that won the division, that got to host them. Finally, you get to host them. You don't have to play at Arrowhead, a dreaded place where you've never won. And what happens? You are who I thought you were. You completely screwed up and goofed. And I'm sorry, it's just pathetic. They should have won the damn game. The hell with the Bills.
I feel like someone put some money on that game, because that's the only way you could be that emotional about a team you don't care about.
I'm emotional about it because it's horseshit, because they continue to find a way to lose against Kansas City. I mean, yeah, it's their arch nemesis, and yes, it's this version of Indianapolis and New England, but eventually, obviously, finally Peyton Manning got that win over, Brady, and went on to win the Super Bowl. But I mean, come on now, their window really is closing, and I say that because of all the injuries on defense. I say that because Allen is just taking so much punishment, and I mean, how much of a better scenario could you get than being at home in the friendly confines of your stadium, and you still find a way to squander the win against not a great KC team this year, but good enough to get to the AFC title game.
I mean, in order to be one of the final four teams, I figure you got to be pretty damn great.
No doubt.
They
fooled us this year.
But no, they fooled you.
All right.
I told you from the beginning, I ain't betting against Patrick Mahomes.
No, you're sharp. I like that.
I got a text message from our friend Jonathan Hood over at ESPN 1000 in Chicago. He was asking us, how far are the Dallas Cowboys from the remaining teams that are in contention right now? So how far are the Dallas Cowboys from the Kansas City Chiefs, from the Baltimore Ravens, from the San Francisco 49ers, and then from the Detroit Lions? As far as that goes, I don't see a big gulf between Dallas and Detroit, but I see a huge gulf between Dallas, Baltimore, and San Francisco and Kansas City.
Dallas didn't make the moves that San Francisco did midway through the season to become even more dominant on defense, as if they weren't dominant enough. I truly believe that Dak can be, and probably is, a better than Purdy. He's not a better quarterback than Jackson, although Jackson has his Jackson-isms, and we'll see what happens on Sunday against a pretty good KC defense. I honestly feel that Dallas is probably a player or two away from being up to par with those teams, a la a running back. We talked about this. I want him to get Henry, and a la maybe another defensive player to beef up that secondary a little bit, improve the linebacker core, and heck, it never hurts to improve that defensive line. But they're really a couple players away from being that team that those other great teams are in the AFC and NFC right now.
I look at the Dallas Cowboys, and I kind of see, again, I shared it out on our Fire and Ice Facebook page, the Spider-Man meme between the Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills, right?
Funny, yeah.
But I also see Buffalo being constantly spoken about as one of the best teams in the NFL. They did have that lull in the season where they were 7-7, and they put together a great second half of the season. They make it to the playoffs ultimately because of a field goal kick, because of a couple of calls, because of Stephon Diggs dropping a bomb that was perfectly thrown by Josh Allen in his hands. All those things lead to Buffalo getting kicked out.
Yep.
I kind of look at the Dallas Cowboys in the same light of that team, right? I told you from the beginning, I didn't like the way this team matched up with Green Bay. I didn't see the way that it was going to end. They got their ass handed to them, right?
They did, yeah.
But I feel like it's more than just a player away. And I think of that whenever I look at the Buffalo Bills, right? This is a team that's loaded with talent. But whenever you look at the key positions where they need, depth, Buffalo's only got one receiver in Stephon Diggs. Dallas only has one receiver in CeeDee Lamb.
Cooks is pretty good, and he got better as the year progressed.
I
like Cooks.
But is Cooks a number two? I think of Cooks as more of a number three.
Well,
right?
mean, he came through when they needed him. It was all Lamb. But if you needed Cooks, he was there too.
But he also dropped a lot of big passes.
He's first year in the offense, but he needs to get better.
And whenever you talk about a great year like what Josh Allen had, despite all the turnovers, and that's something we can talk about a little bit later, 29 touchdown passes to 18 interceptions. That's not a great –
It's a lot of picks.
Yeah. But whenever I look at the Dallas Cowboys and Buffalo, I kind of see them mirroring each other.
Mm-hmm.
then I think about the one thing that is the great equalizer in all sports, right? How you manage the salary cap. And Dallas is going into this year 11 million to 21 million over the cap, which means they're not going to be able to sign a Derrick Henry, to be able to do these things without doing some amazing gymnastics. The next question that Jonathan Hood posed to us was asking us whether why the Dallas Cowboys didn't upgrade a coach. With all the great head coaches that are out there available, why didn't the Dallas Cowboys upgrade a coach? You had a great shtick and spiel on it last week. If you would care to re-inform everybody of Brandon the Iceman, unless your mind has been changed in a week.
Oh, yes, I love him. Coach of the year, Mike McCarthy. Greatest regular season coach in the history of the game, can't do shit in the playoffs. Yes, let me change my mind because Tip says that he likes McCarthy. I mean, no, I've said this once and I'll say it again. Bad organizations that are poorly run make bad decisions. And I'm sorry, but Dallas has not been a goodly run, with the words goodly, a well-run organization. I just made up a Brandonism, a well-run organization for years. And you see the difference between these well-run organizations versus these crap organizations. And Dallas is a crap organization because they make a decision to keep McCarthy when he hasn't done anything in the postseason. He didn't even win a damn game. Win a freaking game. You win a game, and then I'm like, okay, well, maybe you should keep him for one more year and not extend him. You can't even win a freaking game in the playoffs. So, and again, in the ultimate, what have you done for me lately world, he has not sold me. Okay, I don't like his gambling because he doesn't usually win. Him and Dan Campbell gambles all the time. At least he usually wins, right? McCarthy makes terrible decisions, and usually they don't pay off. We've seen it many times in his tenure in Dallas. He gets out-coached. A coach with his tenure shouldn't get out-coached, but he's getting out-coached, and they're making him look bad. I mean, that's just the bottom line, and that's why I ultimately think it was a bad decision. There's a lot of great free agent coaching candidates available nowadays. I don't know I know Bill Belichick, Atlanta passed on him. He wants a lot of control, but long story short again here is that there are a lot of good coaching candidates available to have passed up on, in my opinion, right now.
Question for you fellas. Does getting a higher tier coach get included in the salary cap, or is that a separate issue, and is the salary cap just for players?
I think that's just for players.
The salary cap is only on the players.
But you know what? It's interesting because you talk about Dallas as this player, that player. It's also about, we know the staff, because the staff, it's weird, but you bring in a different staff and you bring in, they can motivate players more. They can take a player that's not even amazing, that's good but not great, and make them great sometimes. So again, it has a lot to do with the coaching staff. That's why I think it's going to be the same old song next year for the Cowboys, unfortunately.
Brandon hating Mike McCarthy's gambling on fourth down. The Dallas Cowboys were the 8th best team in the NFL last year with a percentage of 56.5% on their fourth down conversion rate. I'd say he won a little more than what he lost right there, Brandon.
A lot. He'd give up on field goals, and we have the best kicker in the NFL and one of the best kickers. But yeah, I just don't like his moves. I just don't. You know what? I always liked him when he was with Green Bay, but now I don't like it when he's with us. The irony, right?
I think that's the thing, right? You just don't like him. Is that what it is?
I don't hate him. He seems like a nice fella. I'd like to have agrees with him, but he can put it away. That's for sure. But I don't like him as a coach. I want him to go coach someone else.
Okay, and that's my thing, right? With the Dallas Cowboys, I get it. Bill Belichick was out there. Pete Carroll's out there. Jim Harbaugh, I don't ever think was a thought to come to the Dallas Cowboys. I think everyone wanted Dallas to go after Bill Belichick.
Yeah, he may be available next year.
How much of Bill Belichick's success was having Tom Brady?
All of it. If you ask me, all of it. Everything that Bill Belichick was able to get done was simply because of the fact that he had Tom Brady on his roster. Look at what his record was as a coach with the Browns. Look at what his record was with the Patriots, sans Tom Brady.
But
even before Tom Brady.
You can argue that a lot of coaches are only as good as the ponies they have, okay? If you give somebody crap to work with, then obviously it's going to be hard to win. But with that being said, Brady's a once-in-a-generation player, but also you have to be able to manage a lot of egos, and I think he was always good at that, letting people know who the boss is.
Yeah,
not taking taken advantage of.
But again, that was something that was able to fly whenever he was winning because he had the greatest quarterback of all time on his team, along with what could arguably be the greatest tight end of all time on his team with Rob Gronkowski.
Sure.
And, of course, what could be considered one of the best wide receivers of all time when he had Randy Moss on the team as well.
Yeah.
It's real easy to manage those personalities whenever you have players that good buying into your system. Whenever you start losing and those players don't buy into your system, look at what happened to Bill Belichick and the Patriots. They got undressed on a regular basis over the last 4 years. This was not a good team. So to me, if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I'm looking at the body of work that Belichick has had recently, right? You're the guy that says it all the time. What have you done for me lately? What has Belichick done lately? And in these last 4 years, it's a lot of L's. You can't spell Bill without a bunch of L's in it as well, right? So to me, I didn't think the Dallas Cowboys needed to go after a guy like Bill Belichick. And then whenever I take the Bill Belichick part out of it, I look at what other available coaches are out there. And are they going to get Dallas over the hump better than what Mike McCarthy can do? And the answer to me, Brandon, is simply no. Mike McCarthy is going to be the guy that gets you to the dance, that gets you there. Now it's going to be the rest of the talent having to step up and do their damn job in order to have the Dallas Cowboys win, right? It wasn't Mike McCarthy out there throwing them passes that Dak was missing. It wasn't Mike McCarthy dropping the passes that CeeDee Lamb was doing. It wasn't Mike McCarthy giving up 46 points on defense.
Yeah, no, I look. Defensively, they were horrible. Undoubtedly, defensively, they were absolute garbage, and it was disgusting. I mean, and that's why I'm surprised that Quinn is still that big of a coaching candidate, even though their defense steadily declined from around, let's call it week 7 on. And ultimately, that's what, was so disheartening, is that they couldn't stop anybody. And yes, you're right. It's never about the coaches who end up ultimately playing because they can't play the game. But long story short, it's also about how you manage the clock and so on. And they sure as hell didn't manage the clock very well in that game as well. I'm just saying, I'm just making a general observation here. And you know me, I make general observations sometimes.
The debate will continue throughout the rest of time. If we can have someone help out Coach with his headset. There we go. I think we're getting it now. We have Coach Nate Poss joining us right now as well from UTEP. He was one of the football directors over there at the University of Texas at El Paso. After 27 years now, leaving the University of Texas at El Paso. Coach, thank you so much for joining us here today on Fire and Ice.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Coach, it's good to see you, buddy. It's been a while.
What year were you in my class?
96, 97. So we're going to start. I told Tip I'm going to tell the story on the air. So Coach Poss, it's my senior year at Coronado, right? I graduated in 97. And there's a gentleman by the name of Nate Poss who has been there since 95. He's, great football coach there. And he teaches economics and government. Yeah. So one semester I had Coach Poss for government, and then the next semester it was economics, which he affectionately called Possonomics. Now, let me just say I had him for almost a full year, and we absolutely loved Coach Poss because he was the absolute greatest. He was the funny guy. He had the cool accent, and every Friday he had a shtick. Okay, this was his shtick, which to this day I've never met another teacher that does it. On Thursday he would say, "All right," in his accent. I'm imitate you. Okay, I hope you know. Donuts. Oh, sorry about that. I was a little loud. Look at the look on his face. He would say, "Donuts. Who wants some eclairs? I got bagels, orange juice, milk. Who wants that?" And all the kids would be like, "Well, Coach Poss, we want this and that." So he would bring donuts every single
and bagels,
and cream cheese and juice, and he brought donuts. He brought us donuts because he loves us, and I have to say that. We loved him. He was the greatest, coach. He was the greatest educator, one of the best teachers I've ever had because he made economics understandable. And to this day, I can tell you there's no free lunch. You remember that line?
Oh, yeah.
There's no free lunch. And then 97 comes, right? And in March 97, he says, "I have an announcement to make, kids." We're like, "Okay, what, donuts and breakfast sandwiches or what?" We're thinking, right? And he says, I took a job with UTEP, Director of Football Operations. This was March of 97. And our hearts sunk to the floor. He's like, "There's going to be somebody that's taken over, a permanent sub for the rest of the semester." But he's like, "I want you to know this was an offer I couldn't refuse and moving up my career." And we all understood. And we were with a permanent sub until the very last day of school. He comes, and this is my yearbook, class of 97. And all the kids were so thrilled because Coach Poss came and he signed our yearbooks. And we were so happy. And Coach Poss and I always had a special relationship. And Coach, do you remember that right there? I know you see where you said that you remember you called me El Loco Rojo? You see that? Coach Poss signed my yearbook in 97. Is that good? Can you see that right there? And when you want to zoom in to see that, I'm telling the story here.
There it is.
Yeah, you got it? Okay, so I'm going to read it. It says, Brandon, he called me El Loco Rojo, and he underlined it. I want you to remember me when you are on ESPN. Maybe you'll be in the big time, or maybe I'll be in the big time too. Always use that outgoing personality which you have been blessed, and you'll have life by the balls. Take care, and please keep in touch. Nathan, Coach Poss. And let me tell you something, the irony of this, okay? This guy here, he worked for ESPN in Bristol, and I, of course, been with ESPN Radio here for years, and you are, of course, the beloved director of football operations. You did that for 27 years. Yeah. So I think we all kind of got what we wanted, but the fact that you signed my yearbook, and I found it today to show you. Is
that's great. That's
and we
that's
love
awesome.
you. We love you, pal. You know, that's cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And, you know, let's go back to the Donuts Bagels.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, how many times was he the winner?
Well, you should see what I asked him yesterday what he would like, and it was a long descriptive, and I couldn't find what he wanted. He wanted sesame seed bagels, and he wanted a donuts filled with strawberry cream. I couldn't find it. But back to what we did that, and Friday was current event day, whether it was government and economics, and the students went home back in the day where everybody had a newspaper, and they'd clip something out, and they'd write about it, and we'd read them out and discuss it. That was
I remember.
And we ate donuts and bagels and had juice and had a good time.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That's why we always remember you. You know, you made a big difference in our lives. And it was my senior year, so it was a really important year.
Yeah.
That's why I love Coach Buzz. There's a story. It's a good story, huh?
It is a good story. I'm
story.
all about it, especially knowing that like it was kind of like that bridge time between, him being your teacher and then going over to UTEP, where he would spend 27 years with the University of Texas at El Paso, going through all the highs, which weren't many, and all the lows, which seemed to be bountiful.
Yeah. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go over that time with UTEP. You show up in 1997. They a couple of years later, they're co-champions of the WAC, right? Yeah. They've had all this phenomenal build up to it. Out of all that time that you had at UTEP, what would you say would be one of your favorite, like most lasting memories that you have?
The 2000 championship season would have to be one, but more just like I'm wearing Brian Young's New Orleans thing. He actually wore this in a game.
Oh wow!
I thought it'd be only fitting.
That's cool.
And he autographed the back.
Nice.
Just some of the all the different players. There's still some great moments through there. 2004 and 5, we had really good teams, and then of course when we had Aaron Jones, Alvin Jones, Jameel Showers, Wes Miller. That was really a special. 2014 went up to the New Mexico Bowl. There's something about that team that was special. So, I mean, there's been a lot of. I don't want to say one's the more special, but 2000 championship team and the cast of characters that they had that were all still tied to this day. So
I remember that game too when they became co-champs. They beat Rice, which is funny because you went to Rice.
Yeah, I went. It's very ironic.
Yeah, that you're a Rice alum.
We beat Rice, and I still knew quite a few people there.
Yeah, and it's funny because our Paso Times article about you is amazing. I mean, by Brett Bloomquist.
Brett deserves some pride. That
it's a hell of an article. It's a good read.
It was a good read. It was really good.
And he, you as a director of football operations, you had a plethora of jobs to do, and one of them was to find a missing goalpost.
Well, that was in '97. That was
okay. That was '90. Oh, that's right. When they beat BYU, right?
BYU.
Okay, but still, you how the hell do you end up with a job of looking for a missing goalpost?
Well,
that's
it's
funny.
just the business, the assistant athletic director for business, Hank Humphreys, who Hank is a Mormon, my friend. He lives in Phoenix now, and of course BYU. But he came over to the coach's office. This is now the Brumble building, and said, "We're missing a goalpost." On the south end. And we are, Hank. I mean, where were you at the end of the game? I asked him. He goes, I was up in the press box doing some other responsibilities. I said, well, the students tore it down and they took it up to the top of the stadium and dumped it, and everybody was cheering. He said, where? So we got in my car. We drove over back there. There was no goalpost.
eBay before eBay.
So what had happened, Brett didn't expound on this as much because of time in the story. I went back around because I was at that time helping coach all the special teams. So we'd go through the special teams tape. Then all the other coaches take their position groups. And I went around with my punters, snappers, kickers, and hey, does anybody know what happened to that goalpost? Well, some offensive linemen, tight ends said, yeah, coach, we know, but it's out in the desert. the frat guys, and we got it. We took it out there, and we had a bonfire. And it's all burned. It's charred. We can show you where it is, but you can't put it back up.
Charred goalpost. They're like, "What's this?"
I don't know how they charred it, but they had
That's awesome.
yeah.
Man. Great story.
And then, of
Great
course,
story.
in 2000, when we beat Rice, you remember they tore the goalpost down.
Yeah, I remember they stormed the field. I think I was one of the people that stormed the field. That was
Yeah.
cool.
Well, that was really
awesome.
an
I'll never
amazing-
forget it. 54,000, whatever, Sun
Yeah.
Bowl record, right?
Yeah, it was.
So a couple of years ago, Tennessee has a game where they beat Alabama. They tear down the goalpost, throw it into the river. Did you have a flashback of like, no, don't do that? Whenever they storm the field and knock down
No.
goalposts, are you like, please don't do this?
Honestly, when fans tear down a goalpost, I probably shouldn't say this, but fans get so excited about beating someone or winning a game, they tear down the goalpost. Throw it, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
Do something with
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And those things aren't light.
No.
I imagine. I mean, I've never held a goalpost, but I can't imagine.
I mean, the
light.
way that you said that right now makes me think that you might be responsible for dumping some stuff over the end of the Sun Bowl.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I wouldn't be involved in that nonsense.
Yeah.
That Michigas. You know me, Coach. I was a good boy.
Okay, so one of the stories that I also read in there was you being in charge of getting a boom box. And this is going back into some old school stuff. You got to get a radio for listening to music and doing all that stuff. Can you tell us about that story?
Yeah, we play Oklahoma the first game of the 2000 season, and we thought we were going to be pretty good. Didn't know we'd win the conference. OU, that team we played, won the national championship. We didn't know they were pretty good too. Yeah. So we get there, and Gary Nord's first game, and the equipment manager Bob Rappanut didn't bring the boom box. Well, he never had to because the previous coaches wouldn't allow it. And Coach Nord had gone. One thing he did, he went to the players and said, "What can we do?" And they said, "We want music," and didn't have it. So I don't know if I volunteered or he volunteered me, but I walked over to the Oklahoma locker room. Bob Stoops was sitting outside. I could tell he's nervous. I mean, he was, pregame jitters. And I said, "Coach, crazy question." Nate Poss, he goes, "Yeah, I've met you, and we forgot our boom box." And Coach Nord, we were looking for a boom box. I don't know if you would know. And he said, "Hey, Nate, yeah," he was really great. He goes, "Go back in the weight room. Those weight room guys, the strength guys, are always lifting. They're in there lifting right now." So I went in there, and they had music on, but they said, "Well, you can't take this one." They said, check Bud Wilkinson Hall, which is where a lot of ex-OU players party before the game. And I walked in there, and it was a zoo, and knew it wasn't. So by this time, I went across the street, and I saw Lori Phillips, Wade Phillips' wife, and Chris Porter's mother, our running back on that team, and said, "Well, they said, what are you doing out here?" And I had my coaching gear on, looking for a boombox, music. We went from place to place. Finally, a big sorority fraternity group having a big tailgate. And I went in and asked them. They had music, and I asked them, I took 2 sideline passes. Those things can be invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
And said, "Look, I got 2 sideline passes. If we just borrow the boombox pregame, we don't need it, but pregame." And they went back, came back, said, "Oh, sure. You got to chug a beer with all of us." So everybody in that group, out of this, they had 2 or 3 kegs, and it was good beer. We all chugged it, and then they walked with me back. I came in just covered in sweat. So our offensive tight end coach at that time, Brian Callahan, who's now at Minnesota, not the Brian Callahan who just got these offensive line coach there. He had been at Oklahoma with Gary Nord 2 years before, and they have a guy named Merv that was doing my job, and he said, "I guarantee you Merv couldn't have gotten out like Coach Poss did and got a boombox." But after the game, this is the rest of the story. We're getting everybody on the bus, and I'm getting ready to, and the equipment manager said, hey, Nate, there's 2 guys looking for you. And I walked back in, and they're right inside the locker room. And I walked back in. They said, "Can we have our boom box?" Oh, yeah. Right over there. Make yourself at home. Take it.
They send their henchmen, after Coach Paws.
Well, I mean, you gave them sideline passes. That should be enough to say that boom box is mine now. Yeah.
Hey, man, this is worth their weight.
And you chugged a beer with them.
Yeah,
so.
right. That's cool. You're like one of the guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen so many head coaches come and go. I mean, who was? I know that Nord was your buddy, but was there one particular coach that you enjoyed working with, the most?
Yeah,
essentially?
they all they're and Brandon, in due respect, they're all good friends.
Sure,
They're all
sure.
all 5 of them that I work with
Yeah.
to this day. In the last 2 weeks, I've either talked to or texted
Right,
with, and,
right,
and,
right.
and keep in touch. And so I couldn't say. Coach Bailey had me at Rice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He was my defensive coordinator, and I ran. How he bonded with me was my freshman year. I was on the scout team, running plays against the defense, and I never played running back. I played tailback, running back for scout team, and he really liked it. He put me on. He was in charge of kickoff punt. Last few games of the year, he put me on that, and then he wanted me to play defense. We had a guy named Tommy Kramer who started in the NFL for 12 years for the Vikings. Was first team All-American my senior year. He was at my class. And I wanted to catch from Tommy, but Coach Bailey convinced me to move to defense. And the head coach said, "You don't have to." But I said, "No, Coach Bailey." So really, I would never have been here in El Paso at Coronado without him. Never would have been hired by him. So as far as that goes, but Gary Nord and he called me this week he works as an analyst for Louisville, but 6 months a year he's down in Florida. He called me, FaceTime me from a racetrack in South Florida, and Coach Price, I went up to see him, and of course Kugler, and then Coach Dimmels, we'll always, all those guys will be friends. Because you go through, with what I did, my job, you see, the players more than anybody.
Yeah.
You're around them. You handle a lot of issues that maybe a position coach doesn't see, and a lot of things. So you have to become closer with your head. You should become closer with your head coach.
Absolutely.
And you go through some things, that only he and and.
And I'm sure, losing makes everything a little more difficult. And there are some really bad seasons there for UTEP. And it's really awesome to see, you stayed, you kind of navigated all that with them. You were kind of like the consistent there to help, get through all those tough times, because I'm sure you've seen it all.
Oh, yeah, I've seen a lot. So, yeah. And to try to help, like, I knew Gary Nord. He and I were office next to each other when he got the job. Sean Kugler had been in the NFL for 12 years, but he and I worked together my first 4 years at UTEP. I didn't know Dana Dimmel. I didn't know Mike Price. But both of them, I sat down, had about an hour and a half presentation, and went through everything. And then they said, "Yeah, we'd love to have you." So, but they're all good friends. They really are.
What was it like for you to have seen that article come out? And again, on the El Paso Times, Brent Bloomquist doing a great job out there with that article. What was it like for you to see, just the glowing responses that you got from all those players, all those people? What was that like for you?
I'm going to be honest. I cried.
Sure.
And even I read it back, and it certain parts of it really are mean a lot, so much to me. And then put it out on Facebook, and I think another one of our former coaches put it out on Twitter, and I've gotten so many responses, but I'm trying to go through and respond to everybody, because it's been amazing, the outpouring of support from ex-players, and even and mothers and dads, even players I coached all the way back at Sul Ross and in Midland. I mean, way back there that got on and talked to me about my influence on them, that sometimes you don't even know. You don't know. You do the best you can. You try to take care of your friends and your students and your athletes, and that's what we all should do. I know, like Brandon does too.
Well, we love you. You know that. You're our buddy. And look, I would regret if I didn't mention, you should see the party this guy has every July. He's got a Christmas party in July. And I've been to a few of them. I wasn't able to go this year. I remember you sent me a memo, but I was out of town on a cruise. But he's had so many players and athletes. And I mean, I remember Deion Hankins was at one. I mean, a coach, former coaches. Yeah. You should see the party.
And you said July. Christmas only comes twice a year,
right?
So it can be in May, June, July, just kind of whenever.
But it's usually Well, I guess I think I've gone in July, maybe June.
It might be earlier this year.
Oh, really?
And
I'll be there.
And it started. That Christmas party started.
It's a good.
My first Christmas party was 1981 in December, and I'd gotten divorced that week. And some friends said, "You know what? You need to have a Christmas party. You're down." And I was down, and we had it. small party. Even and the lady that I was married to divorced that week. She actually, someone came and said Judy's here and she wants to come in. No, it was fine. I said come on in. We hugged and cried. But so it went on in 1997. I came to UTEP. December 97, I'm recruiting West Texas and the Panhandle. Couldn't have a Christmas party. And go on. And so Coach Bailey, I told him this, and in April, we had the first Christmas party, not around Christmas, and only probably 30 people. We hung Christmas lights, we did some things. And then the next year, we had a little bit more. And then my friend Rudy Holguin, who would come, he brought in, and it just started growing until he brings in this giant cooker and cooks all the brisket and chicken.
It's so good.
And then people bring side dishes, and I hire a bartender
and slides for the kids.
And inflatable. And what is kind of growing, I rent a big inflatable water slide, and we have Child Crisis Center and big brothers, big sisters. They'll come over early in the day, and it's kind of like their day to come hang out. And then people bring their kids and grandkids. It's so
these special drinks, those margaritas or whatever they were. I remember those.
Yeah,
they're fun.
You
got a nice big backyard. You see the size of his backyard. I mean, you could fit 3 other houses in there. But I've been there a few times, and I'll never forget.
Well, it's my way of saying thank you to the community.
We appreciate it.
In fact, a couple of ex-players from UTEP, when they found out I wasn't going to be with UTEP football anymore, they said, "But what about the Christmas? So no more Christmas party?" I went, "No. We're having the Christmas party."
I was going to ask too.
No,
I mean,
till
make
the
sure
day
we
I
have one.
till the day, as long as I can stand and deliver, we're going to have a Christmas
I'm ready.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So that's what I was going to ask is, okay, so what's the next step? Because I feel like someone of your talents, and obviously with the reputation that you have, how many people, once again, spoke about you in such glowing terms, that you could have gone anywhere.
Well,
what was it that made you decide that you want to stay here in El Paso?
That's a great question. I think you stick with something, and I've had chances to leave, but I love El Paso. I love UTEP Miners. Our team through the years, coaches would change, players would change, but there's something about. I said, you know what? I just kind of I was the one constant. I think Aaron Jones mentioned that in the story that I was so touched by Aaron's comments, but just the fact that I felt like what I did was important, and this is a unique place. El Paso, geographically, is unique. UTEP's unique because you recruit, and most of your student athletes come from the rest of Texas, Southern California. You've got to go all, and it's so different. Like, you kind of feel like, you know what, I can help keep this thing going, and help sell El Paso and help sell UTEP football.
Have you thought about, do you feel that you want to stay in the coaching realm, back to being an educator? Because there's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah,
with your resume.
That's right. Right now,
I'm
helping athletics just kind of develop relationships with ex-football players, ex-student athletes. How long that will last, I don't know. I have a passion for that, yes.
Sure.
But then there's other things in life that may occur. I've had a lot of people this week that have called, texted, emailed, that in the football world, in the athletic world, and in the private sector that have said, "So you're kind of a free agent now."
Sure, yeah.
And so I'm trying to. First thing I want to do is relax. For about a month.
Sure.
And I got to clean my house and my garage. I got to kind of.
You got to get ready for that party.
Yeah, because it is coming up next summer.
Sometime.
We're excited.
Yeah, but I've got to kind of do some personal things. I think I need to.
Sure.
Because when you're football, college football, director of football operations, you never have a chance to really stop sometimes and do that, because you've always, you've got all your players and the different things that come up, that sometimes you got to just stop. And I hadn't really had a chance to really stop, because my mother got sick 3 years ago, and battled cancer. And so I was really with her a lot. So that took a lot of time.
Sure.
So I'm looking forward to taking a little extra time just to kind of get my own personal life in gear, or personal house in gear.
Yeah. You deserve it. You need to relax. And by the way, this guy here, he was recently at the Cowboys-Packers game. Aaron, and you were with the family. They had you as a guest, and you saw the ass whooping there. And Aaron continues to be great against the Cowboys, doesn't he?
And I have so many friends, El Paso, throughout the state of Texas and the country, that are huge Cowboy fans. And Well, and that's
Unfortunately,
that's
I'm all,
fine.
Let me hide under the table.
And that's fine. I've got Babe Loffenberg's a good friend, and then Sammy Garza, our old quarterback at UTEP, and also a coach with me, lived in my house. He's one of the top scouts for the Cowboys. I know a lot of people with the Cowboys, but I always cheer for guys that where I have ex-players playing or coaching in the NFL. That's kind of how I choose my teams. But the proudest I was, I mean, unbelievable game. I mean, sat there. I thought the Packers might win, but the way they just mauled.
Yeah, they tore him up.
But Aaron went out. He's one of the older players on the, and I still think of him as when he's 18 years old. He and Alvin came to us. He walked out there and represented them as a captain and made the call. And the way I heard it over the loudspeaker, we want the ball.
Yeah.
And he was that just made my heart swell to see him do that.
Yeah.
And then it couldn't have happened. We were in the third level, kind of high, but not too high, right in the middle of the goalpost. And he scored right. They marched down and scored right in front of us. Then he went through the ball of to his mother and brother and to Alvin. That couldn't have happened. It was really one of my lifetime highlights.
That's great.
It really was.
That's great.
Yeah. And then to go down after the game they were able to get a few of us down there to the family area where the players and coaches come out, and so excited. They were so excited.
Sure.
I mean, yeah.
I feel like that should be the next evolution of what you do with your time is just go to as many of those football games as you can.
That's exactly right. Because this next fall, no matter, I don't know sure what I'm doing, but I want to go. I've gone to see Aaron play, I think four times. But I haven't gotten to see, because we're always busy during football. I can go see Aaron play in December, January. But I've gone to see Wes Phillips, who, like one of my younger brothers, he's the offense coordinator for the Vikings. I went up there last December. In fact, watched Wes coach the biggest comeback in NFL history. They beat the Colts.
That's right.
Then I drove over to Milwaukee, picked up Mrs. Jones at the airport. We drove up and watched Aaron play. But watch the Packers, but I want to go. I hadn't seen Will Hernandez play live. I hadn't seen Roy Robertson play live. Nick Needham still with the Dolphins.
Sure.
Bobby King still coaching for the was with the Titans. I don't know if he'll still be there, but and some friends that are still coaching.
Coach Rodriguez.
Coach Rodriguez.
With Arizona.
Coach Rodriguez.
I mean,
so I can go watch Will and watch Rob's
a good guy. I met him in Chicago one time. Took him out for a hot dog.
Robert's.
Yeah, he's cool.
He
saw his. I think the Bears beat the Vikings. It was a Sunday night football game.
Yeah. But of course, he's with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Jeremy Springer's with the Rams. I talked to Jeremy Sunday. He was my GA in operations and moved on to the field. And 8 years later, he's the assistant special teams coach for the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
In fact, he was interviewing this weekend with the Patriots for their head special teams job. So I want to go watch, and Jeremy and I talked about coming to watch him coach.
Sure.
Too,
It was nice.
And then Tyrese Knight. I'll make this statement right now. Tyrese Knight will get drafted. He'll make an NFL team, and I'll go watch my man Tyrese Knight. Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
So.
Yeah. So now I think that's going to be the plan, right? Is we go see as many football games, you go see as many football games as possible. I think what needs to happen is, Brandon, you and I need to find our way to meet him at one of these games.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is
Can we get some bagels?
We'll find a group of people, of bagels and eclairs and all kinds of things, right? But we'll find a group of people with a boombox, and we'll find a way to get that boombox with them by just chugging a couple of beers.
Yeah, that's right.
and I have to say, that. Remember when you came to speak with my middle schoolers when I taught at Bassett? This is probably about 7-8 years ago, and he comes with 24 bagels with cream cheese for the middle schoolers, and then then he said, "Who wants some eclairs?" But it was funny, man. The kids loved them. They loved them. I was great. We love you, man. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have to ask. Brandon said that you were going to bring something special. Did he request that? Because I kind of feel like he requested that.
I didn't. I swear he offered. I didn't ask him.
I did offer, but I mean, I don't have my reading glasses. I think I left them out in my truck. But he wanted, and I couldn't find these. I stopped by Albert's.
This is great. This is good. Thank you.
I got a couple of apple fritters.
I like apple fritters. This one looks good here.
There's one of them.
This one looks good.
Of course, this is maple covered.
Maple's good.
That's got, I believe,
strawberry.
If you got a pineapple,
hoochie
coochie.
Yeah.
And then this has some. This is raspberry.
I like that. Thank you.
But no, what he requested were bagels with sesame seeds on them.
You asked me.
And so,
what
a
I
strawberry filled donut, whatever. And I couldn't. I looked in, couldn't find
I
it.
told you when it comes to donuts, I don't discriminate.
Well,
Donut's a donut. What's my favorite donut? Any donut is my favorite donut.
I'm with you.
It's like asking an alcoholic what their favorite drink is. It's like, what's your favorite beer? An open one?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? See, there's a Brandonism, Destiny.
All right, Coach. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Fire and Ice. Everybody, whenever we come back, we're going to go over our picks for the week.
Yes.
Of what's going to happen coming up
Yes.
with all the games that are coming up as well. And I want to talk a little bit about all the scoring that happened this week in the NBA.
Yes.
Wow.
3 players scoring over 60 points.
Your boy from, I tell you what, I saw that game against Phoenix.
Yeah.
I meant to text you the other day. Oh, my
It
God.
was quite a week that we had.
He's a man amongst boys, isn't he?
100%
He is a man amongst boys.
But we will return in just a little bit. We're going to
Okay.
have a little commercial break going on for you all right now.
Let's do it. We got to get a picture with Coach Paul.
They fake it to Edwards, and now complete it to Aguilar for the touchdown. Play caller in the NFL. 2 years in San Francisco. His first in Houston. He's watching Lamar Jackson. 1. Jackson, end zone, likely for the touchdown. Jackson keeps Stanley in front of him. Touchdown, Lamar.
And I sat there and I had you sign it. And I'm looking for your signature, and I found El Loco Rojo. And I said, "There's Coach Pa's signature." I said, "I'm going to surprise him and show him this yearbook." I had to pull it out of the mothballs. That's pretty cool, huh?
That is.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to come back in about 10 seconds.
10 seconds. We're coming back, Coach.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is Fire and Ice. We are live over here at Union Draft House, 730 Sunland Park in the parking lot of the shops at Solana. Brandon, it's been an awesome experience hanging out with Coach Paz today as well. Remember, over here at Union Draft House, though, it's cider day. That means they've got the $4 ciders, the $4 seltzers in the can, And, of course, our favorite thing, Brandon, we have the bottomless wing special going on today as well. $15.99 gets you that first order, and then all the orders after that are absolutely free. Everybody's favorite price when it comes to any of the stuff that we've got going on right now. But you hear the music a little bit in the background as well, Brandon. That means it's time for us to give our picks of the week. Only 2 games left. This is what I consider one of the more sad times of the year, because all we have now are the AFC and NFC Championship, the Pro Bowl that nobody's going to watch, and then, of course, the Super Bowl. Just a couple more weeks of football left before we get into the long dog days of nothing but basketball, baseball, and maybe soccer if I get that bored. Brandon, first game up on the board that we have right now. The Kansas City Chiefs on the road against Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore absolutely dismantled the Houston Texans last week, 31-10. That game was tied 10-10.5, and then Baltimore just turned it on. Kansas City ultimately able to go into Buffalo, give Patrick Mahomes his first true road win. Brandon, who do you think is going to win this game between Kansas City and Baltimore?
Well, a wise man once said, and, he's usually not that wise, but I guess once in a while, even a broken old clock is still right twice a day, that it's hard to beat Patrick Mahomes. And I have to say that as good as the Baltimore Ravens defense is, and as well coached as this team is, and yes, Jackson is your MVP, I got Kansas City winning. And you know why? Because Kansas City, they're the defending champions. Kansas City still finds a way to win in Buffalo. Yes, Kansas City isn't as good offensively as they've been in years past, but when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes that makes something out of nothing, I have to absolutely say the Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl. And, oh, yes, we get to see the beautiful Taylor Swift one more time. And that's exactly why I want them to win. But, no, in all honesty, I got the Chiefs taking care of business in Baltimore.
Coach Boss, who do you got in this game? Who do you think is going to win?
My best judgment says Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, and their run game, their defense. But I can't until someone Kansas City Chiefs are like they're the championing Patrick Mahomes. I can't bet against them, even though I'm concerned. I heard yesterday that their all-pro offensive lineman's out, and I hope they can work that.
The Ravens are coming in with more rest, even though there's some issues with receivers with Kansas City.
So Dave are asking the question, even though Baltimore's coming in with a little more rest and that there's issues with the receivers in Kansas City. Coach, I'll let you go ahead and answer that one.
I think by now, I think the rest, they only have one more day of rest.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to be a factor. I can't pick against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I just can't do it.
Brandon, I said it last week. To be the man,
you got to beat. Yeah,
you got to beat the man.
Really?
Patrick Mahomes is the man. And that's what has me terrified now is I thought you were going to go with Baltimore.
I know you did.
To go on your crusade of anti-Kansas City.
No. I mean, hey, I know a girl in Kansas City, but anyways, I'm not going to go any further on that. But, honestly, man, I what can I say? They convinced me. I mean, it's really hard to beat them, man. And they're to me, they're going to be that team that beats Baltimore. They may be the only team that could beat Baltimore right now. It's Kansas City. Honest to God, it's just the way it goes.
That's the thing, right? Like all the questions were there. David alluded to it. All the questions with the wide receivers for Kansas City dropping the passes. They led the NFL in over 300 potential yards of dropped passes. Did the Kansas City Chiefs receivers, and that was leading the NFL by far by about 200 combined yards of passes that the receivers for Kansas City dropped. The simple fact that Patrick Mahomes is able to fit those balls into the tight windows, and then we saw it last week. For whatever reason, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who was dropping every damn pass in the regular season, coming up with one-handed catches over the shoulder, just everything. They know how to turn it on when it matters the most. Patrick Mahomes is the big game quarterback in the NFL right now. The thing that seems like sacrilege to me is hearing all of the analysts say he's so much more physically talented than what Tom Brady could have ever been. And the fact that this is his 6th NFC championship in 6 years of AFC championship,
unbelievable.
And starting as a quarterback.
Yeah, they don't lose. They don't. It's hard to beat them. I mean, when you do beat them, it's almost a miracle, right? I mean, they talk about the definition of clutch, and there's his picture, right?
And then think about
this.
What I mean? If they win this, or if they win and go to the Super Bowl, it'll be his 4th Super Bowl in his first 6 years.
Amazing.
That is utterly amazing to think about.
Yeah, and the one he didn't go to was in the AFC Championship against
Yeah.
Brady, and
Yeah.
that was an amazing win
Yeah.
right there, right?
Yeah.
You know,
It's the only time he has it like that.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
Brady.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. What can you say?
So all three of us going with Kansas City right now. I am terrified with that because now I feel like we just put a jinx on them.
Yeah.
Football
Probably.
gods,
Sure,
please.
Baltimore will
right?
win now.
Although I really want this game to come down to one of those last second blown calls by an official, because then we get the storyline for the next 2 weeks of the NFL wants Taylor Swift
it's
in the
rigged.
Super Bowl.
We want her to come back from her tour, 5,000 miles to see her boyfriend in Vegas, and we got to see a shirtless Kelsey again. I want to see that again.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be
That
good.
was
Jason
cool.
Kelsey, big fat guy being shirtless. It's a good time
it's
for
like
you.
you know.
Yeah.
Gah, 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 gah.
Okay, so then the next game that we have on the docket, the best story going on in football right now, the Detroit Lions, after 30-plus years of futility, finally making it back to their first NFC Championship game since 1991. Got their first playoff win since 1991. The city of Detroit looks like it's revamped, rejuvenated with all that they've got going on. But then they go on the road and face what is a juggernaut offense, just depth after depth after depth with the San Francisco 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. There's a question mark with him.
There is a question
But
mark.
even Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, the list goes on and on and on. Brandon, what are your thoughts as Detroit goes into San Francisco looking for a trip to make the Super Bowl?
You know, if you would have asked me 6 weeks ago, I would have said that there's an astonishing yes that it's going to be San Francisco. But there's just something about this Lions team, the way they've looked in his last couple of weeks. And yeah, they may have squeaked out a win, but a lot of great teams squeak out wins. It's called the NFL postseason. I just feel that San Francisco is more vulnerable than ever right now. I think Purdy is more vulnerable. I think Samuels may very well not play. I think the weather's going to be a lot nicer. That could have an effect on it. In honor of my late great father, Jack, who loved the Lions because he was from Detroit, the Detroit Lions win. And they go on to their first ever Super Bowl, and they beat the Niners. Oy vey, am I Meshuggah, right?
Can
you believe that?
Crazy person.
I mean, you always
No.
known that since I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, I got the Lions. I think defensively they'll do just enough to potentially slow down McCaffrey at least a little, and get to. I think Purdy's going to goof. I think Purdy's going to take the pressure and goof. And I like what Goff's been doing. And this is, to me, a very well coached team, and that could be the difference. I love Campbell, Coach of the Year.
Coach Boss, what do you got?
Well, first, I'm wearing the Brian Young jersey.
I
Well,
love that jersey.
Brian was a teammate of Dan Campbell with the Saints, and they coached together.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
That's
And
cool.
he's Dan Campbell's a man's man.
Sure.
He's a great leader of men. And
Seems like
and
it.
I love the Lions. I'm cheering for him.
Yeah.
Ooh, I
I
don't
know,
know if
I
I
hear
can take them.
I hear you. It's tough. It's tough.
Because the 49ers, their front four is so
They're
good.
They're good.
But it would not. I'm going to be cheering for the Lions.
Yeah, but you like the Niners.
I like the Niners in a
Yeah.
close. But like last week, Aaron Jones and the Packers.
Yeah.
Oh, they were so
They
close.
should have won that game.
So the
That was a tough
49ers are
loss.
vulnerable.
They're very vulnerable.
Oh.
They should have lost last week to Green
Yeah.
Bay. Should have lost to Green
Yeah.
Bay. I agree.
When you look at the city of Detroit, right? Coach Dan Campbell, Coach of the Year. Hands down, Coach of the Year. Such a great storyline with everything that they've got going on there. They keep showing the one fan, and I hope that he's at this game in San Francisco, who bought his season tickets in 1957.
Yeah.
And is, he's been the lifelong fan. That's 27 years before I was born. He was a season ticket holder for Detroit Lions football,
Crazy.
which is
Crazy.
just insane
That
to me.
is.
But Brandon, all good things come to an
I
end.
know.
And this is where I feel like the carrot turns into the pumpkin now, right?
Yeah.
You are going up against what is undoubtedly the best team in the NFC. By leaps and bounds, the best team in the NFC. The only question they have is Brock Purdy, and he's a pretty damn good quarterback.
He didn't look so pretty last week.
Yeah, but
Just saying.
it was weather and all that stuff. Plus, that Green Bay defense is really good, and that
Detroit's
Green
defense
Bay
is not bad.
offense
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah,
they
pretty good.
hit you in the mouth, right? That is a smash mouth type team. That is not what Detroit is. Detroit can run the ball, but they have so many weapons in receiver and tight end. Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is a team that's a little more finesse than what Green Bay is. And I think that plays into the hands of the San Francisco 49ers because this is a team that's going to drop back and pass, and you're giving Bosa and Young a chance to get at the quarterback with Fred Warner there in the middle. This is a stacked roster for San Francisco. And me being a Dallas Cowboys fan, the pain that it is in my heart for me to say that I'm choosing the San Francisco 49ers to win this game, that's just me being logical about this. The 49ers should win this game. It takes nothing away from Detroit. It was a hell of a season for them.
Yep.
And this is more than what I think any of the fans at the beginning of this year could have thought was going to happen.
Absolutely.
You're in the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
But now it's going to be moving on to next year because their season's coming to a screeching halt at this weekend.
And let's put it this way. How long has it been since the Cowboys have been in an NFC Championship game? Just saying, who in their right mind would have thought the Lions would have made it before the Cowboys?
Coach, I don't know if you heard this or not, but since Detroit has made the NFC Championship game.
2 teams with the longest drought. Dallas and Washington.
Yep. And it's just a year that separates them and all that good
There we
stuff.
go.
So
And it's
there we go.
amazing when you go back to the
It's amazing.
60s and 70s and 80s with, with Tom Landry and Joe Gibbs and Jimmy Johnson and all those when those 2 Cowboys and back then the Redskins, when they just kind of dominated. I mean, they had some
Now
and
you can't do anything. It's
Well,
always bad.
but if I'm Washington, I take some solace in being like, everyone knows, we're a turd sandwich. We're just not soggy.
Yeah,
The Dallas
that's it.
Cowboys have all the expectations in the world, have all the talent in the world, have a great coach, have a great quarterback. When you look at the rosters, you expect Washington to just be garbage.
Right.
You look at the Cowboys and you're like, okay, this team has expectations, and they can't get it done.
Yeah,
They
but next
just
year's the
literally
year,
never get it done.
everybody. Next year is the year.
they say that.
If you
every
believe
year.
that, I got some great swampland to sell you over here. Anyways, just saying.
I've never once heard any one of my Cowboys fans friends be like, "Next year's our year."
Yeah, right.
I think I'm always the one that's
me.
like,
That's me. Next year's the year.
I started this season saying this team ain't going to make the playoffs. So I think that's where I am. My
You were at
expectations are
least
so
wrong
low.
about that. You were wrong about that. Thank God, right? It's like, oh boy.
Okay, so those are the things that we got going on in the NFL world. All 3 of us going with the Kansas City Chiefs, which I feel like is going to be just a bad thing for them. And then Brandon on an island by himself with the Detroit Lions. I think all of us, our heart
I
wants
think
the Lions to win.
We're on a pontoon boat right off the island over there.
I'm just dumb enough to actually pick them.
No.
I hope they win.
We're
like to see him
scouting to see if anything happens on that island while he's there by himself.
Yeah.
Okay, Brandon. So one of the things I alluded to that I wanted to talk about as well, and we'll get done with this. Will be the last thing we talk about today, Brandon. All the scoring going on in the NBA.
Yeah.
This week, Karl Anthony Towns and Joel Embiid on the same day. Joel Embiid scores 70, which is a Philadelphia 76ers record, which is weird to think about. That's a team Wilt Chamberlain played for. And then Karl Anthony Towns on the Minnesota Timberwolves scores 62 in a loss, which just must not feel that well. And then last night, Luka Doncic, the amazing European, comes over and he knocks in a 73-piece as well. This is the 4th 70-point game in a calendar year for the NBA. What's up with all the scoring we're seeing, man? Because now I really feel like if it was kind of in jest whenever we say if Jordan played today, he'd average 50.
Yeah.
I really think he'd average
He'd
50
average
now.
60.
Yeah,
He'd
I
average
agree.
more. I mean, it's a different game. I mean, it just nobody wants to play defense anymore. It's all about showboating. That's what people want to see is scoring. Nobody cares about defense. I personally think the game was a hell of a lot better in the 90s, and I'm biased because that's my era, when there was a lot more defense, when the hand checking was not allowed and whatnot. So, I mean, I just think that it's a more exciting game to today's folks watching, because who doesn't want to see a player score 70, 80 points? It's what's used to be unheard of is now the norm in the league, but the traveling's never called. Nobody wants to actually commit to being a good defensive squad. So, I mean, that's what they want, though. That's what the ratings want, is people to score 70 a game, and that's what they're getting.
Coach, what are your thoughts on all the offense that we're seeing now, this offensive outburst we're seeing in the NBA?
I agree with Brandon. I think that when the playoffs start, they play better defense, but it's I don't think it's emphasized as much, and it's not as sexy. The Doncic, give him credit. Last night he was 25 for 33.
Yeah,
and I mean a lot of his shots are way out.
Yeah.
So I mean you can't. I don't know. He does. How do you guard a 7-foot guy that can shoot
from way out there?
Way out
Almost
there. That's
impossible.
what I mean. He's such a unique talent.
Yeah.
And the thing lost in that 76ers game where Joel Embiid scores 70 points was the Spurs were in that game. Victor Wembanyama scores 33 on 90% shooting, and he also had 15 rebounds, 6 blocks, and 4 assists. To go along with 6 steals as
What
well.
a rookie year.
So,
huh?
I mean,
What a rookie year.
that's what it takes to overshadow
Yeah.
what Victor Wembanyama is doing as well. I kind of agree. And I was thinking about this, right? Because I'll go through social media and I get locked in these little wormholes, right? I was born on Michael Jordan's birthday. I got to watch a lot of those Bulls teams growing up. And I'm sitting there watching the final score, that final drive of Jordan, going against Brydon Russell, gets him with the crossover, maybe a little push on the tush there, but then he drops that bucket. And you think about the score, right? Just a beautiful, beautiful score of 98-96.
Yeah.
And then I looked at what the score was left to 146.
Yeah, it's like an all-star game.
It was just like the way that basketball has evolved in such a short period of time to where it's nothing but just let's let it rain from out there. You got a 7'4" guy in Victor Wembanyama shooting 34% from three-point land, where I believe Shaq made 1 3-pointer in his entire career.
Yeah, it's a big man. The evolution of the big man being able to score from more than 20 feet out, it's officially here. And, oh, by the way, I met Byron Russell one time. I was in the locker room when it was, I think, 2003 when Denver was down here for an exhibition game, and I got to meet him. And I was like, hey, man, Jordan scored his last bucket against you. Nice to meet you, sir. He didn't look at me in the same manner after that, but that's okay. I mean, I'm not the first person to hate the Iceman or the last.
I've got a Michael Jordan last year. Talking about ex-coaches here, Gary Nord takes me. He lives in Jupiter, Florida.
Yeah.
He says, let's go to Joe Namath. Joe Namath has a nice restaurant, little restaurant bar on the Intercoastal. See if Joe's there because they're friends. Because Howard Schnellenberger recruited Joe Namath to Alabama, and Gary worked with Coach Nord. Anyway, when we walk in, he told on the way, he said, "There's Michael Jordan's estate. Looks like a hotel resort, off with gated." We walk in. It's not a big restaurant. It's not as big as this.
Okay.
And we walk in. And we're going to sit at the bar to the left, and right here, as I get ready, there's this good-looking man in a sleek outfit, muscular, and I look. It's Michael Jordan.
Wow.
And I looked at him and I don't know why. I looked at him and went, Michael Jordan. And he looked at me like, turn around and don't talk to me. Okay. But so 2 other men came in to visit with him, but they had 2 other guys that were like bodyguards. Michael got up to use the restroom. They made sure no one was in the restroom. Sure. They stood at the restroom. I mean, I guess he has to, wherever he goes, he has to have, even today, he has to have people like that protect him.
God, even professional athletes need a secret service.
Yeah. No, it's people want to always harass them and this and that. And it's understandable. That's cool. You spoke with MJ. I like that story.
Coach Nord called someone and said, "Hey, boss, he just went up and said, Michael Jordan." And then he turned. I said, I was ready to whoop me right there.
He's like, piss off. You're like, yeah, okay. At least I spoke.
But I can only imagine there has to be a million times a day that Michael Jordan gets Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Are you Michael Jordan? Yes, I am. Now piss off. I've got a bunch of stuff to do here. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
Sounds like a crazy episode of To Tell the Truth. Hi, I'm Michael Jordan. Hi, I'm Michael Jordan. I'm Michael Jordan. Turn around. Oh, okay.
I love it.
I love it.
Great story, Coach.
100%.
Great
Good
story.
job.
Love it, buddy.
Okay, everybody, we want to thank you so much for tuning in to Fire and Ice right here. Remember, we got some major announcements that are coming up over the next couple of weeks. It is going to be phenomenal for us as well. We appreciate you all so much, Coach. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Those are some amazing stories. We really do appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Everybody, we will see you next week. That was great.
Boy, that was great. I enjoyed it. Coach.